part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
That sound means it's time for Cavs on the Break NBA podcast from the Press Play Podcast Network. I am your host, Chase Smith, and with me, NBA writer for HoopsWire.com, assisting managing editor at Outkick.com, Sam, the big time. He's our Cavs insider, national NBA writer, Sam Amico. Sam, Cavs are playing playoff basketball.
Yes, they are. It's really started at about game 3 and just kept going. So it's a lot of fun to watch.
Hasn't stopped. And Sam with us, he's going to be joining us every other week. And I could not be more excited to kind of get back into a rhythm with my very good friend, lover of all Cleveland sports, Jeremy in Akron. Jeremy Powell, what's up, my man?
Chase, what is up, man? Yeah, I'm pumped too. Pumped to talk to a legend like Sam Amico every couple of weeks and to be back on the saddle with you. And couldn't be more fun time right now to be a Cavs fan.
Now listen, Jay, we might not have a 5 hot minutes segment with Jeremy Powell, with Jeremy in Akron, the Cavs on the Break. But we will still have time for your takes, your expertise, your input. Sam, Jeremy, I am just so pumped about this Cavs team. Let me just paint the picture here. We are a few weeks before the All-Star break, all right? Let me just paint the picture here. The Cavs are third in the Eastern Conference, not third in the lottery, third in the Eastern Conference. 1.5 games back of the number one seed in the Eastern Conference of the Heat, 1.5 games back. The over-under set for the Cavs at the start of the season was 27.5 games. We've already won 30 games. We're 30-19 right now. We're 8-2 for the last 10, at least the second such time we've had that in a span of 10 games this season. We're in a 3-game win streak. Fellow hosts on the network, Dennis Maniloff, called it a Cavalanche last night against the reigning NBA champs Milwaukee Bucks, 99-115. Sam, the Cavs are for real. Giannis on record saying these aren't the same old Cavs. Sam, I am on cloud 9. I am like all on board, all in. Like the hype train has not stopped. And I don't know if it can be stopped at this point, Sam. Is it even worth trying to slow down this hype train for the Cavs right now?
Not if they keep playing like they're playing. And there's no reason to believe they won't, because they have overcome, obviously, some obstacles, as all teams have with the players going in the health and safety protocols. But they've also had some key injuries. Now, Lauri Markkanen is out for a little bit. Okoro was out for a little bit. They lost Colin Sexton and Ricky Rubio for the regular season, at least, with Sexton. Rubio out for the year. It's just been, that's the negative. And to answer your question, Chase, they've kept rolling anyway. They've kept playing this brand of basketball that's been successful all season. So I don't see any reason to doubt them. I mean, look, you just said it. Vegas had them at 27 wins this year?
27.5 was the over-under at the start of the
whole season. Yeah, and some doofus named Sam Amico that Jeremy called a legend, he's really a doofus, had him at 26-28 wins on the season. So they're already at 30 wins, with – and we're not even at the 50-game mark. We're at 49 games. So, it's just been – there's so many reasons for that we've discussed in the past, but there's no reason to believe that it will end because they are playing the right way and they enjoy it. And I think that's been a big key for their success.
Jeremy, you go to almost every home game that you can. You go to a ton of home games. What is this style of play that makes this team and what they do different than other Cavs iterations? Really, even during Bron's era, you said pre-pod, this is like the most fun team that you've watched. What is it with this team that makes it special?
Yeah, I think it's the most fun since LeBron's first time through. But what it is that's different about them, I think, is that they play defense and they're all bought in. and they root for each other, and they legitimately want the other guys to succeed. A lot of teams that have been, Cleveland teams, that can't be said. It wouldn't. If you said it wouldn't be true. These guys root for each other. You see them all standing in the corner like that. They started doing that. They actually started doing that a game I was at against Boston when they came back from down 17 to win that game. They all started standing in the corner. They're legitimately rooting for each other. They legitimately like each other. There's real chemistry. They love JB. They trust him. They believe in what he's teaching. And the defense is unbelievable. That's what it is. I have never seen, since Giannis became the star that he is, him harassed like he was last night. They were running 7-footers at him. Jared Allen and Mobley are both athletic enough to guard him inside and outside. It's fun, and it's entertaining, and it's energetic, and they go on a big run every game. And Kevin Love is like a kid again. Kevin Love, 2 games in a row going on Kevin Love runs. Kevin Love alone, 5 threes against the Knicks to save us. 25 points last night to lead the way. He's having a great time. It's just, last night it's him and it's Seti. It's someone different every night. The two of them combined for 48 points last night off the bench. And nobody cares who it is. Everybody just wants the next guy to succeed. And it's real. And this isn't like, this is organic. It's not forced. This just kind of happened because the guys believed. And that's another reason I think it's so fun. When you come into a season like this, like Sam said, look, anybody who knew basketball thought the Cavs were going to suck. Why? Because the Cavs kind of zigged when everyone else was zagging. The Cavs said, you know what? Everyone's going small. We're going to go big. We're going to play tall ball. We're going to do this a little different. So you look at the roster before the season.
Would say that the Cavs had the best core the past 2 years and would get laughed at.
Was that you?
Laughed off the pod. Me saying that.
But when they drafted, I heard a lot when they drafted Mobley. Yeah, he's nice, but isn't he the same player that Jared Allen is? No, and the Cavs knew, and the Cavs saw it, and the Cavs dared to be different. They dared to take a chance, and look where they're at. And I'm excited, obviously.
just truly, truly incredible stuff. Sam brought up a lot of good points that I do want to talk about, and I want to frame our discussion in this first segment. Sam mentioned a lot of the injuries that we've had to overcome with Sexton, who went out. Jeremy, we're talking game 7. No, we were 7-4 when Sexton went out.
Right. November 7th.
I think he played 8 games.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he played 8 games. Yeah, total.
So Sexton went out early. Rubio, huge hit, went out. Talking about Lauri Markkanen. Okoro hit some games where they were out. And yet here we are still standing tall. Sam, does that mean that our core now, like our core players, maybe that means our core really is Allen, Mobley, and Darius Garland, and that injuries to these players that and I'm not saying that injuries to these players don't matter, but I think those injuries highlight that, hey, the core of this team maybe are the Allen, Mobley, and Garland, and we can kind of take kids to other positions on the roster. Sam, am I wrong to think that?
No, you're exactly right. Those 3 guys, Darius Garland, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, those are your quote unquote big 3. Okay. They're not super duper star big 3s yet, but those are your big 3. I mean, those are the guys that you're going to build the rest of this team around. Now, the thing is that right now, the guys they have around them are the type of guys that you would try to go get around them. But as Jeremy said, it's been organic. These guys have come up through the program over the last couple of years. You're talking about Isaac Okoro. You're talking about Lamar Stevens. Now, obviously, Lauri Markkanen is new, but Chetty has been here. Kevin Love has been here forever, year 8. So these are all guys who have been with the program. You have the same coach, after which really is kind of a big deal after when Kobe Altman first got the job and LeBron left, they seem to be going through, coaches like socks. So the fact that they've had stability there and stability in the front office with Kobe Altman, and you have to give Dan Gilbert credit here, things looked bleak at the end of last season. You had Kevin Love, playing poorly, displaying a little bit of an attitude. You had the Andre Drummond thing. You had the Kevin Porter Jr. thing. It looked bleak.
We were
you didn't
bleak
know
in
if
this
Garland
podcast,
and Sexton
Yeah, it was.
We were
Todd,
yeah.
We went in on Kobe. We were pretty hard.
Yeah, well, sure, and they stuck with them, and as Jeremy said, they kind of zigged when everybody else was, playing small ball. The Cavs said, you know what, we're gonna do it differently. We know no one else is playing this way, but we're gonna try to change the game. We're gonna muck it up, and play a different style with two small guards and then three 7-footers in effect, and I just love watching them play, for one, but for two, when they have an injury, say, we see Markkanen out now. I love how JB Bickerstaff starts Dean Wade. You would think, okay, you're going to start Love now with Markkanen out. No, he starts Wade or Lamar Stevens or whoever fits, so you can keep Love enjoying himself in the role that he's playing.
Exactly.
And that's just an example. That's just an example of what they're doing philosophically. We're going to stick with what's been working.
It's smart coaching, Sam, is what it is, because they know they have Dean Wade they can plug in for Lauri Markkanen. He won't give you everything Lauri gives, but he'll give you enough to stay afloat. And then you keep Kevin Love in that role that he's been so comfortable with. Look, there probably is a law of diminishing returns with Kevin Love. He's playing 25 minutes a night and scoring 20 points a night now. That's probably right where he needs to be. If you got up pushing it over 30, you might see, there might not be the return that you're getting right now. So it's smart to keep these defined roles where they are. And it's kind of next man up when a starter goes down, and it's smart. And it just shows how in control of this team he is, coach is, and how they've defined these roles for the players and how they're all fitting into these roles. It really is brilliant. And it's just a great job by coach.
And I think how much they trust him too. Sam touched on this at the start of his kind of like response. There does seem to be a lot of trust with not only the coaching staff, but with the front office as well. And which I think is interesting going into this trade deadline, right? Like they have this trust, and you're seeing the team release these videos of Garland and Okoro with the same birthday, and they're doing their little dance, and like everyone is all happy and kind of almost ignoring this elephant in the room of all of the trade rumors that have been going around, which I do want to talk about, but here in a few moments. I want to ask this question first, though. We talk about the young leaders of the team, and I mean, all the young players. Who is that alpha player? Who is going to say, I'm going to take this shot down 1, 5 seconds left? Jeremy, I want to start with you because seeing a lot of games at home, maybe you have a different perspective than maybe what Sam, maybe not. I don't know. Jeremy, who would you say the Cavs would default to 5 seconds left? Who's taking that last shot?
It's Darius Garland. It's Darius Garland. Darius Garland is going to be the guy with the ball in his hands. Whether he always takes the shot, he may not always take the shot. He may create for somebody else. But right now, Darius Garland is I talked about it last time I was on the show. I said he's the straw that stirs the drink, and he is. And they're going to go in those situations as Darius goes. So right now, currently, as the team is set up, Darius Garland is the guy that's going to either take or create that last shot.
Sam, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's he's emerged as that kind of player, that kind of point guard, which maybe he doesn't always take the shot, but he will create something for somebody else. The good news is, if it's not Darius Garland taking the shot and he ends up creating for someone else, there are so many other guys on the team that you would have confidence in taking that shot simply because of their approach to the games. They all believe they're going to win. I would be fine if Lamar Stevens took that shot. I would be fine if you're the Cavs, if Isaac Okoro ended up taking that shot. And it's because it's a team that is so predicated on, we believe we're going to win. Remember last year when they play these close games, they'd end up losing by 10 or 12 points. And you could just see when the game was close near the end, you knew they weren't going to win because you could see it on their faces. They knew they weren't going to win. Now they approach every game, and you could just see with the way they play, you're going to have to come beat us. And guess what? Milwaukee Bucks, defending world champions, you get up 9 on us at the end of the first quarter, that doesn't bother us. And then they come out and play some of the best basketball they've played all year. So it'll be Garland he'll be the guy in control of those situations. But I think that the Cavs would feel confident if it were just about anybody taking that shot, because everybody on this team is really has a lot of belief in themselves.
Okay. I think this is pause for concern, because right now, as the team currently is, Colin Sexton is not playing and is not a part of this conversation. I would argue that even before he got injured, there would be some people that would say, well, I would want Colin Sexton with that ball, or I would want Darius Garland with that ball. Maybe even Colin Sexton would say that would be me, because right now I think everyone is on the same page. Right now, everyone who's watching, everyone who's on the team would say Darius Garland has the ball. I don't know if that's true week 2 of this NBA season, definitely not last year. That is true right now with this team, and I think that is a pause for concern. Jeremy and I were talking about this thing before you joined. Sexton is on the bench, cheering, standing up, being the best teammate you could possibly want right now. Is that going to be a problem? If Sexton does return for the playoffs, like we've been reading, like we've been seeing, like Cavs get ready, we might have Sexton back. Is that going to be a problem? Because that does matter. With the team knowing who is having the ball, who controls what that, like, even if it isn't the I'm taking every shot kind of syndrome, just having that alpha, I'm going to control, that matters on a basketball team. Is that going to be a problem if Sexton returns, Sam?
I don't. Here's what I'll say about Colin Sexton. The 8 games he played this year, I was as impressed with him as I've ever been, and he was scoring 16 points. Okay. So his scoring average was down in the 8 games this year. He was averaging 24 points a game last year. This year, through 8 games, he was averaging 16. And I really liked in those 8 games how he fit in to what they were doing. He took a step back. So I don't know that would be a reason for concern. Is it a pause? Of course. You're going to add a very dynamic guy. If he should come back for the playoffs, you're going to be adding a very dynamic guy, right? And we've all know what Sexton's game is. He's pretty much been, to this point, a volume scorer, right? Guy who's going to dominate the ball a little bit.
Which isn't the Cavs MO right now. That is not.
But Chase, you know what though?
Back. Right. Yep. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was going to say that's exactly what they kind of need right now, though. They need a guy to come in and maybe, the end of the first quarter, going into the second quarter, into the third, going into the fourth, a guy that can come in, dominate the ball, who can create his own shot, who can create for others, to give that burst of offense that when Garland leaves the floor. I was joking the other day, until this Bucks game the other day, it was, there was a pattern in all the Cavs game. Cavs get a big lead. Garland goes to the bench. Cavs lose lead. Garland comes back in. Cavs get lead. Garland goes back out. Cavs lose lead. Rinse, repeat over and over. They do need a guy. Look, the team is not perfect. No one thinks they are. And if Sexton has bought in to this system and his role, he could be exactly what this team needs going. We always use Vinny Microwave Johnson for the guy off the bench. That could be Sexton, though. That could be his role. And if he does come back and I'll tell you this also, Chase, if he does come back just for the playoffs, that's the kind of role it's going to be in. It's going to be 12 to 14 minutes a game. It's not going to be him in at the end of those games. It's going to be him playing 5-6 minutes here, 5-6 minutes here. Because you got to remember, he's coming off a fairly major surgery if he were to come back. So I think this is more a question for next year, the big minutes and who would lead, if he's back, which I think he will be back. But I just see Sexton, if he's willing to accept the role, as exactly what they need right now.
I look at it this way, Chase. I said this to my son the other day. I said, if Sexton were playing for, let's say healthy Sexton were playing for the Denver Nuggets, we would probably be talking about, boy, wouldn't it be nice if the Cavs could go get that guy?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point.
That they need, but the fact that he plays here, we've seen him all the time. So I think that's kind of the way I view it. Like, he is, as Jeremy said, he is kind of that. It's very clear. If you watch this team night in, night out, they need some more backcourt scoring. How are they going to go about it? Maybe it'll be Colin Sexton. Maybe it'll end up being somebody else after the trade deadline. But the bottom line is eventually they're going to need to take some of that load off of Darius Garland in the backcourt when it comes to scoring punch.
Well, you guys have talked me off the ledge of any chemistry issues with Sexton's return. Because this is Darius Garland's team. They're almost adopting his personality of like fun, easygoing, quiet, but just like, I'm going to let my game play for me. I think that's Mobley's disposition as well. That's Allen's disposition. That's Okoro's disposition. All of
such a likable team, man. They're such a likable group of guys.
All this kind of like, we're quiet, but we're just going to kind of be quiet and do this thing together.
Mobley is the Nick Chubb of the Cavs. He's very quiet.
That's such a great
very
comparison.
unassuming, and very, very,
Jeremy
very
just
good.
got a on that analogy there.
I did it for Jeremy. Yeah,
Jeremy likes
that's it's such a great it's such a great analogy. I always go back to when someone asked Nick Chubb why he doesn't talk more, doesn't post more on social media. He said, "You ever see a Lamborghini advertised? If you're out doing what you need to do, you don't need to tell everyone about it, right?" Dude. And that looks like I heard Evan Mobley's college coach say that he's the most unassuming superstar he's ever seen. He doesn't act like a superstar. He just goes out and plays like a superstar. And in this day and age, that's refreshing. You don't see that every day. It's the Cavs. It really honestly looks like the Cavs hit a grand slam home run.
Oh my God.
And the last couple of drafts now, the last 3 drafts really.
Yeah. And not to turn to a Nick Chubb podcast, but which we easily could do. The Chubb is chubbier, Jeremy. We could do that one.
There we go.
The first Hard Knocks, the very first episode, it followed Baker from the airport where he had people get his bags and everything. And then it followed Chubb. He was just like waiting for his bags. No one was talking to him. He was just like one of us almost is getting the bags. It was just this huge, like polarizing difference, which I think has followed their careers even to this day. So, okay, Sam, you mentioned we're talking about Darius Garland, who he would have the ball. He would be the alpha. And the first name you mentioned, you said, I would even be okay with Lamar Stevens taking the shot. Sam, why did you say Lamar Stevens before Okoro? Is there a reason why you said Lamar Stevens before Okoro?
Well, presumably because you think, you would say Okoro's a better player. So I kind of picked the worst option first. Okay. But listen, who doesn't love what Lamar Stevens has done for this team so far?
I mean, Sam, I am right. His revelation, his emergence. I mean, I have to ask it. Does it make Okoro expendable? And you know how much that hurts me to ask. But does that make him expendable, Sam?
Well, I mean, sure, to a point. I think that
he's good.
I don't know that it makes him expendable. But I think that, or, what they call readily available. In other words, the Cavs aren't going to go out there looking for deals that involve or include Isaac Okoro in a package. Now, if they feel that they can improve the team with an offer that they're made and find somebody who fits and it's going to cost them Okoro, then I'm sure they would consider it. But, there's no reason to think that it's time to give up on Isaac Okoro by any stretch. He's having a nice year when he's healthy. He's been improving as a defender. His offense has been a little inconsistent. Before he got injured,
right.
He kind of went through a stretch there where he really was looking like a young Iguodala. So, look, they're a little bit different players. Okoro's got a little bit more smoothness to his game. Little better athlete. Lamar Stevens is more like a junkyard dog. He's going. Yep. He's going to score off hustle plays. Whereas Okoro's more. He's more able to create his own shot, and he's just more polished. That's all there is to it. And
how hard that was for me to ask that, because I love Okoro. I
hope I answered satisfactorily.
On the night of the draft, I said he's a young Kawhi Leonard, and everyone made fun of me for that. But now, that's it. I mean, that Kawhi has accomplished a ton, but he's kind of developing into that defense, stopper. Jeremy, Lamar Stevens is a revelation.
Yeah, no doubt. Let me touch a little bit on Isaac though. The big win over Brooklyn on the Martin Luther King Day. Kyrie was killing us in the third quarter. They put Isaac Okoro on him in the fourth quarter. He shut him down. And after that game, Coach Bickerstaff just completely sang his praises, said he's, he thinks he's one of the best wing defenders already in basketball. He's holding two guards to 39% field goal shooting, one of the top, he's one of the top defensive guards in the league already. I think it would take a knock your socks off type thing to get Isaac Okoro. Like Sam said, there's no way they're stopping him in Dills. There's no way. His stock is rising because of that the defensive prowess, because he is hitting the corner three a little more than he has in the past. He's driving baseline really well, finishing, around the rim. If he develops that outside shot, look out, because like you said, the Andre Iguodala comparison is exactly the kind of player I think he could end up being. And look how many times, Andrew Iguodala always finds himself in the championship, right? And always in big positions and big games. So, I think Isaac Okoro can be that kind of player. So do I think the Cavs would trade Isaac Okoro? It would have to be like a big time deal with a piece that they think could really take him, far in the playoffs. And Stevens, yes, Stevens is the junkyard dog analogy is perfect. The guy is always around the rim. You see him get putbacks every game. You see him fighting for loose balls. Last night he had a block on, they called a foul and it was clean on Giannis. Yeah, exactly. You saw him in there mixing it up. You saw, when they were doubling Giannis, you always saw Lamar Stevens coming over, playing hard all the time. He's a guy that I think kind of knows his role, accepts his role, knows when he's on the floor, he's got to play, 110% the entire time. I love the guy. He is a revelation. He is a big part of this rotation. I think he's in the rotation no matter what happens. He's the 8th, 9th guy on this team, and you're going to see him keep playing, and he's consistent, and he makes plays, and he plays hard defense, and he's just the kind of guy I think that every team needs, that knows his role, will do what's asked of him, and will give 110% all the time.
Look, Iguodala always finds himself holding the previous team's all-star to a 30-point triple-double in the finals and still winning, which is just a travesty and a whole nother rate, which we'll talk, don't get me started on that. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, guys, I want to do a segment called I Dream of Beachy, talking about these trade possibilities, because I think the Cavs are going to be buyers, and which is exciting, or they're going to sit tight. Whatever they're going to do, we're going to talk about it after the break. Stick around. Cavs on the break. Sam Amico, Jeremy, and Akron. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Jeremy Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the Dog Pound coverage that you'll need each week to get you ready for kickoff and beyond.
Don't miss our breakdowns of each week's matchups, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we all know, Holly, dogs got to eat.
That's right, Jeremy. Hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
The R&R podcast going to be rocking and rolling with you because football season is underway. College, Ohio State, the Power Fives, the MAC, the Browns. Michael Regai, are you ready to rock and roll with some football?
Kenny, I've been ready. This is our time of year. This is what R&R is all about. We're going to be with you every week. Kenny just said it, Browns, NFL, Ohio State centric. So you got to stay with us all fall and winter long here on R&R.
That's right. The Regai and Rhoda podcast coming to you here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Subscribe now and don't miss a show.
Hey everybody, I'm Gary.
And I'm Jason.
Opening cards as a kid, no matter what was in the pack, you always had that stick of chewing gum. Well, it turns out Gary and I opened up a box of 86 Tops last year, and let me tell you, the chewing gum does not age well.
Join us on the Ball Card Show,
the sports podcast for the sports collector.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Listen, it is beyond time for you to join a book club. I know you've been thinking about it and everyone's doing it. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us and then listen in.
Hey everyone, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Backed by popular demand, I'm excited to let you know that new episodes of the Hyman Podcast will drop every other Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're going to continue the conversations we started last season and keep having those hard conversations. There is so much in store for you this season, and I'm excited to share it with you. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single moment. The Hyman Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Don Mike Mendoza, the host of the Producing While Asian podcast. Join us to listen in on conversations with everyone who identify from producers to non-producers who all are part of the AAPI community. There's all that and more on the Producing While Asian podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network.
All right, we are back. Cavs on the break. Sam Amico, Jeremy and Akron. I want to do this segment. I have a good friend who listens to the pod. He's a Cavs fan. His name is Wade Beachy. He's one of my friends. He texted me this question. And I was like, you know what, Wade? I'm going to ask him on the pod. It's great. It's called I Dream of Beachy. I'm going to give you 3 ideas of trades. I want you to tell me what a dream trade scenario would be, what a want trade scenario you would kind of create, and what a possible trade scenario you would create. Because I have one for all 3. Sam, what is one dream scenario you would want the Cavs to make going into this trade deadline? What is a dream? And maybe it could be sit tight and hold tight and kind of I'm going to hold, and that's okay too. But what do you have a trade scenario for the Cavs?
Well, first of all, do Jeremy or I win a prize if we give good answers?
No. the good prize.
I would expect nothing less from you. Well, I mean, I would like the guy I would like to see them get that okay, look, here's what they want to do.
This is going into the trade. This is a dream. This isn't realistic. This is just like your dream scenario.
Well, I'm trying to keep it within confines of what they want to do, which is they don't want to trade really. I mean, ideally, they don't want to trade anybody out of their top 9. Okay. So with that in mind, to me, the dream guy, I think, would be LeVert. If you can get of the guys who are available, either LeVert or Buddy Hield, because especially Hield, who can shoot from the outside. But both of those guys would fit in my estimation, seamlessly. They're not guys who demand the basketball or need to dribble around or take a lot of time off the shot clock. They're guys who would fit in because they score within the flow of the game. They are threats within the flow of the game, and they could fit in my opinion, very seamlessly. So I'm going to say LeVert because he's got size. I like and respect how he has taken a step back purposely in Indiana because of their rookie, Chris Duarte. And then I saw him at least take over against the Lakers in the fourth quarter. And LeBron praised him after the game. He ended up with 30 points. And LeBron said, Karis LeVert just broke us down. And I thought, well, that just raised LeVert's trade value. But I think that he would be a guy who could score 10 and would be okay with it. But when you needed him to score 30 and break down a defense, he's capable of that as well. So that to me, of the people who's available, who I would like to see them get the most. So if that helps you, Chase, that would be my dream.
Sam, I need to teach you how to dream bigger, man. I feel like that's not a very good dream. Jeremy, give me a good dream, man. Come on, give me a good scenario.
Although, let me say that I agree with everything you just said. I think the one problem with Buddy Hield is I think you still have the problem that you need someone that can handle the ball a little more. I think he's a great shooter. I just don't trust him as a ball handler, where Karis LeVert checks all those boxes. Karis LeVert could play point the whole fourth quarter if they needed to.
You guys are too realistic. I'm not.
He can create. No, listen, I'm going to go up. Here is my dream, Chase. My dream, and this is what we talked about this pre-show a little. I read an article about it.
Sam, what you don't understand is we would give bold predictions for football games, and I would be like
6 touchdowns,
3 touchdowns. So when I ask you to dream, man, I want you to dream. I'm expecting LeBron dreams here. I'm expecting these dream scenarios here.
Here's someone that we talked a little bit before the show. I just read an article that came out 10 minutes ago. Who knows if it's reputable? It's Brandon Ingram. I don't believe that he's really on the market. I think he's got 2 more years after this year left on his contract. So he's probably not really on there, but he'd fit exactly what the Cavs want. He's rangy. He's a good defender. He can shoot from outside. He can get to the rim. Yeah. So I think if we're dreaming here, that would be my dream if that could happen. Brandon Ingram is my dream.
That is that's a better dream than Sam's, Jeremy.
But that's probably going to cost you. That would cost you a Coro, probably 2 1s, 2 2s. I mean, that's going to cost you in Rubio's contract. And maybe Sexton.
I'm older than you guys. I'm older than you guys, so I try to stay realistic. That's all. I've
grounded in reality.
I'm too a really hard segment. I get it.
Too jaded to dream big. Go ahead.
Yeah. Here's my dream trade, and I don't think it's going to happen. But my dream trade would be and this hurts so much. I would package Okoro, sign and trade Sexton, and next year's first for Jaylen Brown.
For who?
Jaylen Brown.
Oh, yeah. He'd be a nice pickup, that's for sure.
I told Chase before the show that I think if the Cavs had Jaylen Brown without giving out too much, that makes them the favorites to win the East. Maybe not with the Nets, everyone there, but they'd be close to the favorites. I mean, that's why I can't see the Boston ever doing it, because you're making the Cavs so good and so good for years to come.
But if you're Boston, you're not pressing reset. You're pressing you're turning back the clock. Okoro could really be a Jaylen Brown 3 years ago.
I don't think he'll ever have that kind of offensive game. But who knows?
If you're the Celtics, this year's been a dumpster fire. You got to do something to change up the juju or something. Right. You get a first round pick and Sexton. I don't see who says no, Sam, other than you.
Well, they're playing a little better right now. Celtics are.
Yeah,
Celtics they won by 50 yesterday.
I would just, frankly, the guy's a great player, and I agree they would become the Eastern Conference favorites probably. But I'm just nervous about tinkering. I'm just nervous about making a huge splash with something that's already working. That would make me a little bit nervous. And so would Ingram, and I like him, and I think he'd work out well. I would just be a little bit nervous, are one of these guys going to come in here and mess up what has been a really good thing, when in reality, they probably are only one piece away or one fit away, but it's got to be a fit. And if you don't find that fit, you run the danger of messing the whole thing up, and that would scare me a little bit.
And that's why the Karis LeVert thing makes so much sense, because it just seems like he would seamlessly, fit. And if you go watch some old Karis LeVert highlights from a couple of years ago when he was playing with Jared Allen, and they're running 2-man game together, they already know each other. And I'm sure the Cavs have probably picked Jared Allen's brain on him to see what he thought of him. So it just seems you might be right, Sam. It might be the dream scenario and the most likely scenario. It could fit both of those. So.
Okay, so
well, I'm glad you have some logic.
So this is what you want. So what is the trade to get LeVert to Cleveland then? What do you guys want?
It's probably Rubio's contract, a 1 and maybe a 2. And we have those 2 extra 2s. We have the high 2s. We have the Houston's 2 and we have San Antonio's 2 this year.
Yeah, you would have to give up picks, obviously. They might even want 2 first rounders. You can talk them out of that because you have a lot of second rounders. My gosh,
right.
That they could that
good ones.
The Pacers could take, right, and the Pacers could take those second rounders and package them to move up. So because every year we hear teams want to get out of the first round. They don't want another guaranteed contract, so they will trade their first rounder to get out. So I think you could do that. I think at some point the Pacers are going to face reality because I know the offers for LeVert to this point have not been that great. And the Pacers really are just looking to stockpile picks, and the Cavs could offer them that opportunity with that.
Guys, I don't think
that Houston pick is going to be one of the most valuable. It's going to be 33. Like you said, sometimes teams want to maneuver with that pick where they don't have to add a guaranteed roster. There's some school of thought that the 32nd pick in the draft is more valuable than the 25th pick in the draft.
Yes.
Because of that exact reason. It offers more flexibility, and you probably will still get the guy you wanted at 25.
Look, I'm going to be honest, guys. I think this conversation is really cute for podcast and talk radio. I don't think LeVert moves the needle that much. If we have sex, I don't think. No. Look, we're on pace.
I disagree.
To win, 50,
I think he's exactly
52,
what we
games?
Right, Chase. But it's not even about the wins at this point. It's about taking some of the pressure off Darius Garland to keep him fresh. It's getting another playmaker in here is going to happen. They're going to get somebody. Winhurst said it the other day. I'm sure Sam agrees. We are going to get someone, but it's not even all about making the team better by adding a player. It's getting someone in that can take some of the pressure off Darius Garland, because you do not want to run him into the ground. And right now, though, that's exactly what's happening. He's got these back spasms going now. He has, all the pressure to make plays is on Darius. We have to get somebody else in here to make some plays. And Caris LeVert, he's tailor-made for the role we need. He's built for the role we need him in, and it's what he can do. So I think that is the fit, and we'll see what happens. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's
in a moment. But I disagree. If Darius Garland is the player that we think he is, if he's the player that every other NBA star is saying that he is, do that every night. That's your job. We need a player we need a player who will no doubt move the needle. I don't want someone who's going to give us 1 or 2 wins. I want that player who's going to make us the East favorite. And if we have the talent, if we have the picks, and we have the assets to do it, make an offer for Jaylen Brown. What are you messing around with? Just do it.
Chase, listen, there's some realities here. Look, Darius Garland played 5 games in college, right? He has never played a full grind of a season yet. He hasn't been through a full NBA season, and we're asking him to carry a team that's got 30 wins, already on his back. It's not realistic to do for them, no matter how good he is.
To take the pressure off.
Exactly.
Of him.
You have to get it
right, Chase. I agree with you in that. Yes, it's your job. You're going to have to do it every night. But what can we do to make his job easier? What can we do to make him more productive in the minutes that he has, so that we're not running the poor guy into the ground? Because right now, they're kind of mixing and matching with that second backcourt player, that second backcourt scorer. And I frankly don't think that you need, okay, let's look at the Golden State Warriors. How were they built? Steph Curry, number 7 pick. Klay Thompson, 11? Draymond Green, number 35 pick. Those guys all grew organically.
Yeah.
And they didn't really bring in anybody else to really mess that up.
You're right.
They gave him an opportunity.
They supplemented it, though.
They supplemented it, and I think that's
exactly
right now. That's what I would like to see them do. Chase, if they're still here in 3 years or 2 years, even 2 years from now, I would say go out and make a splash. But in order to make a splash, you're going to have to give up some things that you really like, like an Okoro and a Sexton or somebody else that you really like, because nobody's gonna give you their best player for your scraps.
Right.
Well, at least Sam, I want to ask you because you would know better. I'm still talking about my dream because I feel like I like the Ingram idea, but mine's a little more fun for the whole league. In my dream scenario, do the Celtics say no, or do we not offer that? Like, who would say no in my dream proposal?
What's your proposal again?
It
Okoro?
was a Sexton sign and trade, Okoro in a first for Jaylen Brown.
I think they can
They
do a
would
sign and trade.
I would say that the Celtics would probably say no to that.
Okay.
Because I mean, he's a dynamic player, you know, and you just don't know what you're going to get from Sexton. And I mean, you know, he can score, but he could be an odd fit some places.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's just too many questions. There's too many questions. If I'm the Celtics, I look at those Cavs and I say they fit really well there.
Yeah.
I don't know what they would do to make us better than Jaylen Brown already does.
All right. That's fair. Hey, that's fair. I hear that, Sam. I receive that.
Thank heavens, my past.
And I'm going to move on. So, who do you want? It sounds like you both want Caris LeVert. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I do.
Yeah,
I think it's perfect fit.
I would like to have LeVert. If you can't get him, I really like, and this won't meet Jeremy's ball handling criteria, but he is a scorer. He's a pro's pro, and will fit, I think, seamlessly. You wouldn't have to give up anything to get him. And I just think he would be one of those veteran voices that would come in because he's in a bad situation now, would be Terrence Ross with the Magic. Because, again, you're not really giving up anything off your current roster to go get a guy who can come in and can score 25 if he has to, but can also be just fine if he only scores 10. So that's kind of the guy. I want LeVert, but my second choice would be Ross, kind of because I just like the guy. I think that he would be a really good fit. He's not going to make a splash, but he would come in and give the backcourt scoring a boost, which is what they need.
Yeah. Jeremy, what do you think about
I got a guy from the same team who I love, who I think would help, and that's Gary Harris. And I was a huge Gary Harris guy when he was in Denver. And you know what happened to Gary Harris? He got dropped in a bad situation. If you go back and look at his stats and how he played in Denver, the guy can shoot, the guy can score, he can handle the ball. He averaged 17 a game for 2 seasons in Denver, and he just got dumped into a bad situation. I think this is the kind of situation that can rejuvenate him and get him back to where he was. He's not an old guy. I think he's 28, maybe. I think Gary Harris might be 28 years old. And I think that he would fit seamlessly as well, right, with this team. And I think that's a realistic possibility. I think they would move on from him and it wouldn't cost you much.
Look,
and he's in a contract year too, so guys
that as
tend
well
to play better. You know,
I like that Gary Harris option a lot, Jeremy. I loved him in Denver. Honestly, I didn't know he was on the Magic, but I just remember how well he played in Denver.
Yeah,
and
he was in the Aaron Gordon trade.
And that makes sense. Yeah. I think that'd be a great fit. I think we're on the precipice though of if we don't make a move, then we cannot make a move for another couple years. I think the way that the team is promoting, how it's all a team, the way that this team is gelling, you really do run the risk of kind of messing with some of that team juju that's going on and some of the like good vibes and the chemistry going on, which is so important with this team and with what we like young guys going on. If we don't make a move, I don't want them to make a move at all. And so I'm over here saying, like, I either want to trade some of these guys that we just mentioned weren't one of the core 3, by the way, I want to throw that out there, or I want to let all of these guys develop together, keep the whole crew together, and let's see what can really happen and see how special this can be. And so if it's for one of those like 8-9 role player, you're going to get 10, 12 minutes a game, do those moves all the time. I don't want to see any of these other fixtures get moved. Because I think either you hold it now and you go all in with what you have, or this is the time to kind of mix that up, just because that's so important, Sam.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they're going to be Kobe Altman's always aggressive. You know, we've seen him pull some massive trades that are surprising. Even just going out and getting Rondo the way he did as soon as Rubio went down. You know, I just think that
he didn't wait.
He sees what we see, you know. So I think that there's going to be something that they'll do to boost the backcourt score. I think they're going to get exactly what they want. I really do. I think that they have the type of players that and assets that are tradable, especially Ricky Rubio's contract. That's a very valuable thing. So I think that they're going to be able to go get some help for Garland. They see what we see.
They are 100% going to make some move. I mean, it may not be a big, sexy move. And if it's not a big, sexy move, Chase, I promise you, it's not like Sam said earlier, it's not going to be any of the top 8, the rotational guys. It'll just be, you know, maybe some seconds, maybe have to throw in a guy at the end of the bench to make salaries work. But they are 100%. Oh, and then I think, weren't they granted a $9 million exemption today?
Yes.
For Ricky Rubio. So that's another, you know, tool. So there is something is going to happen. It may not be sexy, but I think Sam's right. I think it's going to be exactly what they want. The problem is we don't know we don't know exactly what they want, and we won't until it happens. But something is going to happen. It may not be big, but there's 100% going to be some type of move before the deadline.
Well, it is time to wake up. I Dream of Beachy segment is officially over. Let us know, tweet us, and let us know who you dream the Cavs would get, who you want them to get, who you think they're going to get, or just let us know if I need to calm down with my Jaylen Brown. I got pretty pumped up. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty fired up. But that's all good.
That's not out of the ordinary. We appreciate that about you.
Good.
That's right.
Like it.
Good. Yeah. The Cavs have just a handful of games before the trade deadline. And just looking at kind of the last week 15 here, they play at Detroit, and then next week, week 16 slate, Monday at the Rock against the Pelicans, Wednesday against the Pelicans, Wednesday at the Toyota Center in Houston against the Rockets, and then Friday they're at the Spectrum Center against Charlotte. Can we get to 35 wins before the All-Star break? Jeremy, what do you think?
What do we say? Yeah, we definitely can. I think we might be at 34 games before the trade deadline. So we can definitely, I think we'll go at least 4-2 in these next 6. So I think we can definitely be at 35 games before the All-Star break, no doubt.
Sam, 35, would you take that? It's like, yeah, we can get that.
Yeah, without question. You know, you look at the next 6 games and you think if you don't go at least 4-2, you're probably a little disappointed with that because the schedule's very favorable. And we've seen the reports. Their schedule is what? For the rest of the season, they have 33 games left. It's like the 3rd or 4th easiest schedule in the league when you factor in opponents' records. So I think that they're going to be right there pushing for 50 wins this year, and part of that's going to be this next stretch here where you just got to take care of business against these teams that that you're better than right now, and not have any letdowns. You do that, yeah, for sure. You're sitting pretty on February 10th when the trade deadline hits.
Well,
let me throw a stat. Let me throw a stat at you guys.
Let's hear it, man.
The Cavs are 15-15 against teams with winning records, which is really good. They are 15-4 against teams with losing records. So that shows the Cavs have been taking care of business against the teams they should beat. So, and we got a bunch of those coming up. So
they're really good at home too, which has been a nice change of pace the last couple of years.
Yeah. And even the games they've lost at home, they lost to Phoenix with their full boat of players by 2. They lost to Memphis by 4 with their full roster. So the Cavs have been really good at home, and they played, and that's another thing about this team. When's the last time they got blown out? The second game of the year? They haven't got blown out at all. We're in every game.
They got beat bad at Washington when they had like 6 guys missing, 6 or 7 guys. But
that's right.
That to me, it was just like, that was the one game where they just ran out of gas. They didn't have the bodies. And, to me, that there was nothing to hang your heads about. They didn't. They just bounced back the next game and played very well. So you're right. I mean, it's just been a collective thing from guys, 1 through 10 or 11, that everybody knows a role. Everybody knows how to, step up when need be. And it's just been it's been it's really been a huge, pleasant surprise.
The Cavs are 15-9 at home. Surprisingly, they haven't had an overtime game yet this season, which is shocking. So that'll be something to look out for. Well, that does it for this episode of Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Thank you all so much for downloading and listening. Shouts to the Press Play Podcast Network for making this possible. Shouts to Jeremy for joining us every other Thursday right here on COTB. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Cavs on the Break. We always follow back. Follow Sam on Twitter at Amico Hoops. Get all of his works and writings at hoopswire.com and outkick.com for breaking news, insider info, and more. Don't miss out. You can follow Jeremy on Facebook, and that's it. That's all.
Instagram, baby. Instagram too.
Jeremy on Instagram. Sam, any final thoughts, my man?
No, I just can't wait to be flooded with the screenshots from the ESPN trade machine on how we can get Jaylen Brown.
I want to see that Jaylen Brown trade. Jaylen for Okoro sign and trade Sexton and one. If I'm just going to say this. If I'm the Celtics, I'm not going to say no right away. I'm going to look at that and say, what have we done with Jaylen Brown? Where have we gotten? I don't know. I think it's worth exploring. That's just me. What do I know? Only played basketball my whole life and played in college. What do I know? Jeremy?
Drop of the trump card.
Any final thoughts, man?
Yeah, no. Hey, guys, thanks for having me. It's a blast. It's going to be fun. I'm so interested to see how this all plays out. But, I mean, I guess enjoy it for the moment. But, you know, something you brought up there, the Cavs are 15-9 at home. They're 15-10 on the road.
Yeah, they are.
So it's like and that's a sign of a team that plays defense. Because what do we always say? Defense travels. So
Right. Well, this has been great. It's good talking to you guys. Mike Breen, take us out.
Congratulations, Cleveland. Your decades-long wait is finally over. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.